very early in my career, I was an intern at a small newspaper in Massachusetts, and I was assigned to help the City Hall reporter. And after the meetings, we'd all go out to the local bar, and you'd meet the politicians, you'd meet the people who work for them. And I sat down at a table with my mentor, and he introduced me to two women. They're older than I was, maybe 5-10 years older than me. One of them worked for the director of the Housing Authority, which I knew immediately was made her a very interesting person, because the Housing Authority was forever under investigation, and the newspaper was forever trying to get information. And I don't remember the other woman. That woman, she kind of took a shine to me personally, and the next night or a few days later, we went out for a drink, and during it, I decided that I didn't like her very much. I didn't find her particularly attractive, and I didn't find her particularly interesting. However, something in my worser nature said I should continue this contact. And don't forget, this was the 60s, and the definition of dating was a little more expansive perhaps than it is now. But we started dating. It was not an engagement. It was not a going steady. And it also became physical. And I knew what I was doing, that I was playing on her affections for me, exploiting it for the purposes of developing a source, someone I knew would make sure my phone calls got through at this housing authority. So flash forward near the end of the summer, when I was already established and I was doing quite well, I get an envelope. Someone brings an envelope and leaves it on my desk. I find out after the fact of this story. And it was from this woman. It was a plain envelope. She dropped it off herself. She asked the city editor where I sat, and he said, "That's his desk. You can leave it there." In those days, you didn't have all these security arrangements. You walk into a newsroom of a newspaper, people, they didn't really stop you. Now, this newspaper shared space. It was one of those papers that had an afternoon edition and a morning edition. And even though it was the same owner, they competed bitterly. And this woman really didn't have any difference. So on the way out, she met the City Hall reporter for the other edition. "Hey, what you doing here?" "Oh, I was just dropping something off to Larry Levy, blah, blah, blah." Okay. So this guy had morals about at my level, and he went and he took it off my desk. And he opened it. And the next morning, there's a huge story about a federal investigation of the Housing Authority, instigated by Teddy Kennedy, based on a GAO investigation, a GAO report on improprieties there. And this is a huge story in our rival newspaper. And I call her up, and I said, "How did this?" I went to the reporter, and I said, how'd you get this story? And he says, "Well, so-and-so brought it in and gave it to me." And I said, "She gave it to you?" He says, "Yeah." So I called her up, and without it, I said, "How could you do that? I mean, I've taken you out. I've spent a lot of time with you. I thought we were friends, and you give it to Russ so-and-so?" And he says, "No, I left it on your desk." And in a way, I was very angry then. I actually got into a fist fight with the reporter. We had to be separated in the newsroom. But I was 20 years old. You get into fist fights when you're 20 years old back then. I was a baseball player and a little bit of an animal. But I realized that, in a sense, it was kind of, I always look back at it as punishment for having done the wrong thing. And in the end, I didn't get the story. But it was an example of adjusting my morals, even rationalizing for the times that it was the 60s. And I said the ends justify the means. My job is to get the story. And what the heck, she likes me anyways. but it was absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I look back and smile that it was a good thing that I did not get the story as a result of it.